I don't mean to, we don't mean to belittle what you're trying to do. Okay then. Item E, special appropriation, Board of Ed vehicle.
The Board of Ed is going to make a presentation tonight that they need to replace their mail vehicle. Well, presentation or at least discussion. And here for questions. Incidentally, before Mariana starts, they frugally brought forth a plan to buy a used vehicle. I'm very sorry that Mrs. Picarazzi isn't here this evening. She would have loved to have heard that. But you know, they're looking at Ford Escapes, and Ford Escapes should ring a bell, right? We're buying Ford Escapes all over town, and we're buying them for $24,999. And we're all looking at this going, well, you're going to buy a 3 or 4 year old one with 40-something thousand miles and save a couple nickels. Why not buy a new one and not buy someone else's problem, and you get the warranty with it? We'll be transporting children in this vehicle. We have a special program that Mariana will talk about. We thought it would actually be best for the taxpayers to spend the money on a new one. It's just a couple $1,000s more that would last longer, would come with the warranty, you know, tires that would last 40 or 50,000 miles, all the things that happen when you buy a new vehicle. And I'll let Mariana take it from there.
So,
you're here to answer questions.
So Mariana Stevens, Finance Director for the East Lyme Public Schools. So as Mark said, I came to the Board of Selectmen meeting with some research I had done with some used vehicles for our mail van. We currently are using a very old van. It's almost 20 years old. It's not worth repairing. The repairs that would be needed are in excess of what the van is worth. It would not pass inspection at DMV because we do have a student on it, and as Mark said, we are currently running the town and Board of Ed mail using our AIM program, which is our 18 to 24-year-old students. So they get to have a work experience, they get to interact with the people in the different offices, they come to town hall, and it gives them some real life experience. So we have a job coach with them. So the job coach assists, and so when I came to the Board of Selectmen meeting, the question was, well, why not, for a few more, get the new vehicle, which we would obviously be in favor of. We are transporting students in it, and it would make sense to get a newer vehicle. So I don't know if anyone has any questions on that. We would be using the CNRE money. I do believe we had some funds with the sale of one of our vans, so that's going to offset the 25 and change, so it would be a little bit less than that. And I'm not sure, I feel like we had another one out to auction, but I don't know if that auction has closed yet or not. But if it has, that would also go into that fund to help offset the cost of the vehicle.
I'd like to just point out this is not, we will not be using taxpayer money for this. This is 100% coming from the Learn rental fees. That's important.
I have a question.
Sure.
It says funds available in Learn rental fees at $212,000. Is that what the balance is in that account now?
Oh, that, Anna.
Yes.
And every year, how much is added to that?
Well, we're
no longer receiving Learn funds. So this for 18-19, we received half of it, about 30 or 32,000. But in January, they vacated because they renovated a new facility in New London. Okay. So they moved the program to New London. So at this point, right now, there is no one using this space.
So, all right. So the $212,000. You're taking $22,000 out of it?
Yes.
Which is the bulk of what the price
Correct.
of the car is?
Yes.
And where does the balance of the 212 minus the 22,000 go? What's it used for? What's your...
So that's in that account to be used for capital items. So we leave that in that account, and then we come to you, I believe last year, or no, 2 years ago, we bought a new van for student transportation using those funds. So our intent is to leave that there in the event we need some type of unanticipated capital item that isn't in the budget, or in this case, we needed the mail van. We thought that so that's what we would use those funds
So,
for.
so to use those funds for capital items, you have to come before us?
Yes, yeah, I don't maintain that account, John, Anna does, and then we come to the Board of Selectmen for an appropriation, and then we come to you for the appropriation.
Okay, thank you.
So we could have used that 212 to offset some of the Board of Ed budget increase this year for technology.
Well, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anna, it should be used for capital items, so.
Which is the technology stuff,
Maybe
right?
next year,
Yeah.
capital. Knock off the capital.
A little bit
Yeah,
irritating. Okay. Any other questions about the motion before us?
No.
Proposal before us, it's not a motion yet. Has they been corrected?
I have questions.
Then you should ask them.
If I remember correctly, there was $50,000 in the CIP for vehicle acquisition
Yes.
for the 2019/20 budget year.
Mhm.
And the highway department, I believe, was going to give you one of their hand-me-down cars,
Trucks.
a truck.
Yes.
Did you receive that?
I don't know, Joe.
I think
Did we
we'll
get
our
in that?
truck.
So not
Oh,
yet.
not yet.
And what will be the purpose, what's the use of that
That's for
truck,
our.
the intended use?
Sure, that's for our maintenance department, so right now, we are down a plow truck. Joe and Parks and Rec was kind enough to give us a truck to use for plowing during this past
Right,
winter.
right.
But he's currently using an old van to store his tools and and various items. It doesn't have a plow, so if we don't get the truck from Public Works, we will be down one plow
Okay.
truck this year.
But it's likely that you will get it.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So can I assume that in the 20/21 budget, where the $50,000 for the vehicle acquisition was moved to, we could reduce that next year to 25? If we approve this evening for 24,000 or 25, whatever, what you're asking for,
Yep.
can we reduce that? Was that what was targeted for that?
I'd have to go back
amount.
and look at that, Camille. I'm not sure. I think what we were trying to do is put in, and I don't know if there was 50,000 for next year as well.
Well, there was 50,000 for
This
this
year.
year's vehicle acquisition
Right.
plan for the Board of Ed.
We moved it to next year.
And it was all moved to 20/21.
So, right, because
But I
we're-
wasn't sure what the $50,000 was for.
It was for that truck,
So it was
so-
for one truck.
Correct. So
Right.
if we get the truck from Public Works, I think it was moved in the event something happened or we didn't get the truck from Public Works, we would need that vehicle
Right.
in 2021.
So my question, so the other 25 though, so that would have been 25, say.
No, the
the
truck
truck-
was 50. We did
Oh,
not
it was
anticipate
50.
needing to replace the mail van at that time of the budget.
Okay,
Yes,
gotcha.
yeah, that's why,
Gotcha.
yes, so this is new, this is
So
unanticipated.
then, if we approve the $25,000 this evening, we can eliminate the $50,000
For next
budget
year in
for
the
next year,
2021,
In
correct.
the CIP when it comes around?
Yes.
Okay. The concern I have doesn't have so much to do with dollars, Marianne. It has to do with who's driving the vehicle. Are you saying, and I've heard Mr. Nickerson say this evening that it's for the transport of students, but that's not true.
No,
You're giving driving experience to an AIM student?
No. We are giving work experience to an AIM student. A job coach drives the vehicle.
Okay, so
The
no
student rides.
student
No,
is
no.
ever permitted to
No.
drive this vehicle?
They ride in the vehicle.
Okay.
Along with the job coach.
Okay.
And go to the various departments within the town hall and the Board of Ed, pick up mail, drop off mail, go to the post office, things of that nature.
Okay.
Sort the mail here at the town hall and at the Board of Ed. No, there is no student driving the vehicle.
Okay, that would,
No.
thank
Nope.
you.
Nope, that would not happen.
It wasn't, I wasn't sure the way the proposal was worded,
No.
what was going on
No, they're
there.
riding in the vehicle.
Okay.
Any other questions about the proposal before us?
I think with the savings of the 20,000 in the technology plan and the funds are coming from CNRE, from the Learn Fund, I'm good with this, but I will remember next year to take a look at that 50,000 in your vehicle acquisition plan for the BOE.
So my question is, why don't we move this $212 to offset some of the $1,126,000 we just approved? Why are we keeping $200,000 in a slush fund? Because that's to me what it feels like. It's just another little bucket of 200. That $250,000 just spent. If we won't give Joe $5,000 for an oil tank or gas tank, I don't understand why we would. It has to be used for capital. We just approved $1.25 million of capital.
So the CNRE fund was established to save money for future purchases. And when the board reviews the fund, does an in-depth review at your meeting next month, we can talk about all of those type of items. And maybe, and perhaps as we go into the budget cycle for 2021, look at
Not having a whole bunch of little bits of surplus, but have one bucket of surplus, so that we don't have to manage a whole bunch of little bit of, for the same reason that we just talked about the $5,000. If we think $5,000 is important to manage, I would think $212,000 is important to manage.
I think you raised an interesting point. I mean, the money's going to be gone like this once we start using it for capital projects, because every year there's at least that much of capital going from the Board of Ed. But I do think, Mr. Chair, I think it's too late in the process in this case, because generally the Board of Ed is part of the. They make a vote first about spending the project learn money, and then it goes to the Board of Selectmen, Board of Ed. I think, listen, the money's there. We know it's there now. We've kind of identified. We were talking about it on the record. I think next time they need a capital item, maybe it should come from there, and we should start eating that up. Since there's not going to be any more funding going in, it seems like we should deplete that account, and we should do it.
You're just trying to be consistent.
I know. Well, you often are. But let's make sure we address that next time, and there'll be plenty of next times.
Okay. My humble opinion on this motion, a car that's going to be used to shuttle mail and little things around town, where it's not going to be traveling any more than 3 or 4 miles on each trip, perfect use for a used vehicle. To me, $16,000 with a $3,000 kickback from the used car that's being sold, I think makes more sense than a brand new vehicle. Just a depreciation for the first couple of years for a car that's going to be used for a couple hundred miles. To me, it feels like your initial proposal was a better proposal. Nothing against Board of Selectmen.
At the Board of Selectmen level, we did talk about, we waited for a bit. Of course, we don't consider depreciation because we take every vehicle we have, we burn it to the ground. We're never talking about the trade-in value, so we don't worry about the knockoff value. It is on the road most of the day. It shuttles from here to here to here. So it might be a 3-mile trip between one location and another, but then there's a point C and a point D, and then it goes back to point A, and it does that thing several times a day. It's on the road quite a bit.
So it's going to be a 20-mile-a-year car, or is it going to be a 5,000-mile-a-year car?
No, it's going to be more than 5.
Yeah.
Definitely more than 5.
How many miles does the car have on it that you're replacing?
I think 85, 88,000.
Yeah,
And how old is it?
20?
20 years old.
But that's not the
That's-
original mail vehicle.
No.
Bob was driving something else a year.
It is not the original mail vehicle.
That burned
That,
down 2 years
yes,
ago.
yes, that went 2 years ago. I believe that's the one that was sold that we are offsetting. So I don't know how many miles it puts on. It is running, as Mark says,
Okay.
all year long. And we do have a student riding in it, so we are with all due respect, purchasing new vehicles for the Public Works Department and Rec Department. They're also driving within town as well, so it would make sense to have a newer vehicle for transporting students and our employees.
Please note that the Board of Selectmen increased the amount to $25,000 to give the Board of Ed and the Board of Finance, I might add, the option to purchase a new vehicle. So we didn't set it in cement. We threw it back to you folks and said, well, we want to increase the number. If you really want to bring them back down to a used vehicle, by all means.
Okay.
What a setup.
My humble opinion is yes.
We think, well, we really did think it was a new one was better for the reasons I gave, but we also didn't want it to go back to the Board of Selectmen because then we wanted to give you the option and then let them get their vehicle replaced.
So I have a question, Mary Ann,
Sure.
used versus new. I mean, you were looking at some of the used vehicles, but they seem to have high mileage.
They do, and that was
And
correct.
that's, to
So-
me, problematic.
And I think those vehicles probably have more bells and whistles. The new vehicle that we would be getting would be standard equipment. So my guess is that's why the other part of why they're a little bit higher. And again, I did a search on 4 or 5 vehicles. I'm sure there's other ones out there. Some of them had higher mileage. I think the ones that I have here, they're in the 40s, some 30s. And to me, it wouldn't make sense for a small difference. And again, as I believe one of the Board of Selectmen reported, there's issues sometimes with airbags and recalls with used vehicles, and we are transporting
And with
those
new
students.
vehicles. There's recall issues with new vehicles
There
as
are.
well. Okay, any other conversations?
I can get behind you, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to revise the motion.
Okay, any other conversations about the proposals before us? All right. If I was to make this motion, and I'll make this motion just to be clear, if we think that $18,000 is the high end of a used vehicle, and that's lots of bells and whistles, and they can deprogram themselves down to lower, if we were going to 15,500 plus 2,949, because I don't have my calculator, I'm gonna say that those two are greater than 18. I think that would be a good motion. So I would move to approve a special appropriation in CNRE Fund 32 to account 32-99-400-700-701 BOE vehicles in the amount of $15,500. Nope, wait, that's wrong because the 15,500 goes here. So what's 15,500 plus 12,900? That would be 17,449. Okay. In the amount of I don't have.
How about the original amount of 18?
Give me the math of 18 minus 2949, please. Trying to do this in my head and I'm tired.
15,051.
15,051. Okay. Move to approve. Starting over again. Move to approve a special appropriation CNRE Fund 32 to account 3299-400-700-701 BOE vehicle in the amount of $18,000, with a source of the funds as follows: $2,949 from BOE vehicle sale and $15,051 from learn rental fees. Note that town meeting is required. I would like to reward them for their hard work. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any other conversations about the motion before us? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
No.
Opposed? Abstain? So moved, 410. Okay, moving on to F, health insurance. Special appropriation health insurance.
So the ongoing saga of our health insurance situation. Included in your packages was the history of the health insurance, the way the claims went for the fiscal year 7/1/18 to 6/30/19. Also included was a historical analysis going back to 2013, showing what our revenues, expenditures, looking at our the history of the IBNR claims, also looking at the history of our large claims. Back in 2000, you know, like as far back as 2000, 13 and 14, we had a lower amount of large claims. The year that just ended, we had 28 large claims, of which 13 of them were over the $125,000 individual stop loss amount. So far, fiscal year to date, I had included at the point in time that the agenda packets were put together, there were $223,951 in IBNR claims, but through today, that number is $494,718, which is about half of what I projected they would be.
Yeah, could you repeat that number for?
$494,718. So one of the action that we're asking for tonight, the Board of Ed, from the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2018, they had $74,503 remaining in encumbrances that, for whatever reason, they did not make those purchases. So they would like to allocate those remaining funds to the health insurance fund. In addition, for the fiscal year that just ended, 6/30/18, they've been going through all of the purchase orders that they have outstanding, and their estimate is between, say, $105,000 to $135,000 that they would have available for us to transfer into the health insurance fund. The issue is, with the shortfall, the cash shortfall that we experienced through June 30th of 19, and the IBNR claims for the ongoing, because the pool of contracts in the fund, 2/3 of it is the Board of Ed. So I think their portion of the IBNR would be, a little over $640,000. They just did not have sufficient funds in the budget year that just ended to be able to help with this, and for whatever reason, funds were not included in this year's budget to that end. So in addition to the two sources that I've identified, there are a couple of other things that we can talk about. So in the 6/30, and I'm not suggesting we deal with this evening. This is something that we could consider at a future date once we get closer to really wrapping up our 6/30/19 end of year results. But the outside tuition that the Board of Ed charges primarily for the Salem students, the original projection was $2.7 million, and they came in a little over $2.8 million. So I believe it's about $192,000 greater than what was projected. So that, for all intents and purposes, is a surplus from last year. So perhaps we may want to talk about allocating those funds towards the shortfall. And then in addition to that, in the current year budget, the education cost sharing grant, we projected using the governor's numbers, and the legislature's numbers were $492,000 greater than the governor's number. So we have, we have a potential there to go through the action of increasing this year's budget to cover, an additional portion of what's needed there. Those are just suggestions, and I don't know if anyone has any questions. I mean, we know we've just struggled with the health insurance, and even though we have gone to another plan effective this July 1st, we still have to deal with those incurred but not reported claims. As I said, we're just under $500,000 right now. So.
And for those encumbrances that you just mentioned, plus the cost share, are they restricted such that we have to spend them in certain areas?
So the prior year encumbrances, meaning 6/30/18, that's why we're coming before the boards, because it's a prior year. Normally you would just liquidate them and that would become a part of fund balance. But right now they're sitting, they're just kind of like sitting aside, identified for Board of Ed encumbrances. And so because that's available, that's why that's part of the recommendation to help deal with our health insurance issue.
Okay. So I think what I heard you say was these Board of Ed encumbrances, not only the 74,000, but the other 105 to 135, they eventually will become liquidated and become part of the general fund.
Well, so for the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2019, transferring those funds to the health insurance on behalf of the Board of Education would be appropriate because we're still within that 60-day run out for 6/30/19 expenditures. So we could transfer that to the health insurance
So
fund.
just skip us that.
Correct.
Okay. All right, any other questions? It's health insurance, there can't be questions about health insurance. So straightforward. I'm sorry.
I had a couple of questions, Anna, in the paragraph that you presented. So I guess the numbers are different now, time has passed, and you've adjusted the numbers, the IBNR number, because the estimate was 891,465 in the July 11th memo. And then there's another reference in your third to the last sentence that, with that said, we estimate needing an additional 895,672. So I'm a little confused about our totals here.
Okay, so when I was writing that up, I was just trying to do a synopsis of like how much funds we needed and where funds were coming from. So to your point, that's more an adjusted number at this point in time.
Okay. And similarly, with that 492,794, first when I read that, I thought we had less than, that was money we weren't expecting, but actually going back, I guess both Board of Ed and the town purposefully underestimated the ECS grant because of what happened the previous year, and so we actually did get more than we expected. So
well,
we are supposed to.
We erred on the side of conservative.
We took the more conservative
Yes,
approach,
which is
meaning
fine.
we used the governor's number as opposed to the
Right.
number that the legislature had proposed in that situation.
Okay. And the Salem or outside tuition dollars, the 192,000, that's greater than expected. So that's from this previous, the year we are just finishing up, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be available or is available to put towards?
Well, and that's, if we were going to consider using that source of funding, we would have to come before the boards again. To, deal with the approval of that. Okay. Those funds.
At the moment, what is available from BOE is the 74,503.
And those are the remaining 6/30/18 encumbrances that were set aside on behalf of the Board of Ed. So at this time, it's appropriate for us to seek board action to be able to use that source of funds.
Other questions? John, you good?
Okay, let me get this clear. You said the Board of Ed share is $640,000,
For the IBNR.
which is 2/3. So the other third brings it up to $924,000. $200,000 as a town share.
So
These are numbers I had from before.
Yeah. So the breakdown is in terms of determining what the allocation is. So water and sewer have 12 employees on the benefit plan. The library has 10. The town has 92, and the Board of Ed has 296.
So what's the dollar amount for each of those departments?
So the Board of Ed is $643,594.
Yep.
The town $200,036. The library $21,743.
I'm sorry, could you say that again? The library
is $21,743.
Thank you.
Sewer $8,697, and water 17,394.
So that all adds up to
The 891,465.
891. So if the Board of Ed share is 640, and they're coming up with approximately $180,000, how are they going to come up with the rest?
So that's why we're also discussing possibly increasing the budget this year. We would increase the education cost share grant and then also increase the Board of Ed's budget by the $492,000, and then possibly consider using some of the excess tuition revenues that we collected in 6/30/19.
So that would come out of their budget, not the town's.
Well, all of these, I mean, really.
ECS is in the town revenue source.
But right now, as the way our budget sits, the education cost sharing funds are, we're looking at having a surplus there this year because we've projected a lower number than we're currently set by the town. So since it's primarily related to the Board of Ed, that's why the suggestion would be to increase the Board of Ed's budget and the education cost share grant.
Out of that?
Correct.
Okay. Which would cover the difference?
A portion of it, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So when will this come up again? Tonight you're asking us just to appropriate 74,000. So
Yeah.
when will the balance
So,
come up? Like August, September?
I was thinking of bringing it before the boards in September, and the reason being when we increased, if you remember, we increased the 18-19 budget by our difference in the ECS funds, again related to health insurance issues, and the board struggled with that because we don't receive our first ECS payment until September. So the board felt, kind of like changed the language in the motion, and so in addition, we would be at a position to really have a better handle on what our real 6/30/19 operating results are.
Because the window, the 60-day window will have closed on August 31st. So
yes.
Even if something came up in that prior year, it wouldn't be considered part of that year's fiscal expense, you're saying.
I'm kind of losing you a little bit in
Okay,
your
so the
description.
60, yeah, I'm probably not articulating this well, but the window closes August 31st, so these IBNR claims would be cut off at that point, so there would be
No.
No?
Okay, so there's really
no cutoff.
There's no cutoff for the IBNR claims. If a
Wow.
claim was incurred in our pool, for all of our East Lyme contracts on or before June 30th, 2019, we're responsible for those claims. Sometimes, for whatever reason,
No statute of limitations, nothing?
sometimes it takes months for a claim to get paid. I don't know why. It just happens. So, like, for example, I go to the doctor. My doctor's office doesn't properly code my services. It goes to the insurance company. They look at it. They're like, hey, this isn't right. They refuse it. And so sometimes because of that, there's a lag in getting a claim paid promptly. It could take 6 months. We could still be, paying on claims for a year. However, the further we get away from the first 60 to 90 days, the amounts are going to be, I would expect the amounts to be, negligible.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
really,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So I think I agree that it makes more sense to wait till September when you got a cleaner story than to come to in August when you've got a half story.
And then also you're getting